Hi, I'm Jeff Murrah. I want to welcome you to True Texas History. I know I haven't been here for a few days, so I'm hoping to catch up on that. This time of year as we go from October on through March, I consider, like the high holy days of Texas history because that's when so much of the war for our independence took place. And I needed to go ahead and cover a couple of those engagements today and give you an overview of where everything was. Now, on November the 4th, 1835, there was the Battle of Lipantitlan. Now, I've talked about this in a previous video, so I'm going to take a little bit different angle this time. Now, in that battle, it was, it breathed some new life into our efforts. We sent out a force of about 70 men, and they occupied this old abandoned fort down near off the Oasis, Lipantitlan. Now, you might say, how did we come up with such a weird name? Well, that goes back to when there was an effort to literally Mexicanize Texas and change the name of any Anglo names to Hispanic names and Hispanic culture. And that's where the fort got its name. Now, this battle is not even mentioned in some history books, but what happened there, the Texans heard that the Mexicans were on their way to intercept them, a force of about 90 Mexicans, including the mayor of San Patricio, who was an Irishman, fighting with the Mexicans. And then when the Mexican force arrived where the Texans were, there was fighting. Our men held firm and actually defeated the larger Mexican force. And then retreated back across the river, literally to kind of fight another day. Now this came on the tail end. Okay, I'll have to look that up. Can you forward any information about the fort? Okay. This came just a short time after the Battle of Concepcion. Now, at the Battle of Concepcion, we had about 90 men there at Mission Concepcion who went up against a force of about 400 Mexicans. Now, the 90 men were largely volunteers and they were ill-equipped, and the Mexican forces, had rifles, pistols, and cannon. And in that engagement, they spotted the Mexican forces. They started engaging in fire. Fortunately, the Texian weapons had a longer range than the Mexican ones. So they were able to be like sharpshooters and pick off their targets. Now, their rate of fire was much slower than that of the Mexican army. And but with their sharpshooters knocking out all the key targets, it put the fear in the ranks. And in fact, the Mexican commander ordered his force to bring up the cannon. And just as they were about to fire the cannon at the Texians who were there, one of the sharpshooters sent one right through the brain of the cannoneer. And that ended that effort. The Mexicans then attempted a cavalry charge, which was repelled. And our men went ahead and they gained some momentum, attacked. They went ahead and reached the Mexican lines, took over the cannon, turned it around, and used it on the Mexican forces, and thus ended the Battle of Concepcion. Now, Concepcion was, let's see, what date was that? That was the last part of October, October 28th. So between Concepcion and Lipantitlan, we gained a little bit of time, and during that time, an interim government was set up where we had they called it a general consultation, but Henry Smith was selected governor and J.W. Robinson as the lieutenant governor. You also had, and Sam Houston was made commander-in-chief of the Army, because keep in mind, prior to that time, Stephen F. Austin was the commander of the Army, not Sam Houston. A lot of times, our history gets distorted by time, and we think Sam Houston was the one leading it the whole time. No, he wasn't. And the Army was still rather ragtag, like several militia groups that were vaguely coordinating their efforts at gaining independence. And fortunately, they were successful. So at this point, the main Mexican force in 1835, as of this date, the main Mexican force is located there in San Antonio. Some of these other forces have been defeated, and literally the Texans are starting to reduce the ability of the Mexican army to operate, around Corpus, along the coast, literally kind of shutting down all their operations to force them there to San Antonio. And in the upcoming battle, we're going to see that change with the storming of San Antonio. But that'll be in another future broadcast. But I wanted to bring you up to date. I'm going to pick up with some more on the Texas Revolution, and also significant figures in Texas history. I was doing a series on outlaws, and I'll try to get back to the outlaws too, and kind of intersperse them there. So until next time, this is Jeff Murrah wishing you vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.